Hi, this is Mike Edelhart, and I'm here with another edition of Inception, our podcast, and now kind of a video cast about the future, new ideas in science, consumer products based on science, sometimes even a little bit of a view of the future. And maybe we'll touch on all of that here today. I'm here with Nieves Martinez Marshall from Novel Farms, and a company that intends, is it fair to say, to revolutionize meat as a food and our approach to meat as a food. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for inviting me to talk about Novel Farms.
Oh, happy to. So let's just start with the basics. So Novel Farms, what does it do?
So we're a food tech company. In particular, we're a cultivated meat company that makes whole cuts of meat using stem cells. And in the field, there are a number of companies doing similar stuff. However, we focus specifically in the structure, in making something that really resembles muscle.
Right. So the idea is that if you just have pork cells, you've got pork cells, but pork steak has a lot more going on than just pork cells.
Exactly.
It's got meat and muscle and fat and all of these kinds of things mixed together in a way that we would all recognize as the object itself. And that's what you mean by whole cuts, right? It looks like what it is. It has the same kind of structure as the actual product. It's not just a pile of pork cells that you pile on rice or something.
Exactly. So the key word here is connective tissue. So muscle cells in particular need a surface to attach to in order to form muscle fibers. So the difference between a burger or sausages, etc., is that you can, put them together, the cells, and then have a sausage. However, for a whole cut, you need a connective tissue, or how we call it, scaffolding, like a surface where cells can grow and form a three-dimensional structure. And the connective tissue or scaffolding is formed of a lot of structural proteins. And that's what it's our specialty. My co-founder and I, we did research on macromolecules throughout the years. And that's why we came up with this way of solving the problem of structure.
Got it. So from our conversations, I know you have a particularly interesting focus on what kind of whole cuts to go for, not just any old kind of thing, but something very specific and kind of related to your heritage.
Yes, so our scaffolding technology is species agnostic, which means we can do pork, we can do beef, any type of animal, right? However, because where I come from, as you said, I come from Spain, and there's a particular breed of pigs that are found there, like since the Neolithic, it's like the ancestral pig called Iberian pigs. And they have a very exceptional meat. It's particularly red. The fats are rich in oleic acid, which means they're healthy fats. And so when we were thinking about making, a meat product, the first thing that comes to mind is like, we have to do Iberian pork. And, pig has lost a lot of, or pork has lost a lot of the taste and the flavor through the years, through the process of breeding for commercial, purposes. So we want to bring back the original, pork meat that is more flavorful and healthier.
Got it. And so where are you? And so can we come by the office and see something that looks like a giant pork leg hanging from the ceiling, or is it little teeny tiny test things? How far along are you in actually being able to deliver what you just described?
So we just recently, last week, showed the world our pork loin prototype. So right now we are 2 in the team, like my co-founder Michelle and I. So we were able to do like a whole cut. And now we are raising our seed round so that we can increase, the production capacity and do a tasting so that everybody can have a little piece.
I can't wait. Now, technically, this is still not legal, right? At least not in the US, that it's so new that if you're making alternative protein out of plants, you can do it. If you're making alternative protein out of stem cells from that actual creature and brewing it, developing it in the lab, there are only a couple of places on Earth right now where you can actually serve that to folks. So how do you feel about the risks of essentially driving in the train at high speed, not knowing when the track is going to get built in front of you?
Well, they're like, in the news, there's been like a lot of governments are putting a step forward and like, for instance, dedicating money for research. Like now South Korea has joined the train. China is also interested in cultivated meat. So we see a lot of movement and interest in the field. And we know from the companies, leading the industry that there's been a lot of, building commercial plans, and they're closer in conversations with the FDA and USDA. We started the conversations very recently. And so we know it's going to happen. We just don't know when.
Yeah, we believe, obviously, we're investors in this space, and we feel, and I think this summer is showing that food production, meat production needs to be decoupled from the traditional approaches because of environmental concerns, because of global warming, because of political instability, and a lot of different things. Environmentally, so does this use a lot of energy? Does this use a lot of water? Clearly, pigs don't suffer if the food is created this way, and they're not rooting around in sties, creating methane and all that. But how does this stack up environmentally to the traditional ways of making Iberian pork or any other meat?
Well, yeah, the first measure is, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, because we don't have to, breed, raise, throughout years and then slaughter animals. So that it's completely eliminated. And at the same time, also land, to raise cattle, you need a lot of land. We already at capacity. So there's not going to end with climate change, and we're going to have areas where there's not going to be, enough pasture for the animals. So eventually we will be forced to move into cultivated meat, processes, and it's just a matter of time. So we need to be ready for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's inevitable. I also have this mental picture of, I'm not sure if it's my grandkids or great grandkids, but relatively soon in history, we're going to get that reaction of, wait, let me get this straight. You took these little animals and you grew them up and you penned them and then you killed them so that you had food to eat. That's barbaric. How could you have done that when clearly food comes from clean, efficient, nearby facilities, and it can have all the properties we need? It just sounds like caveman, like that. Exactly. You guys used to get your food that way.
Yeah, and there are many other industries that have benefited from advances in technology, like how we produce insulin nowadays without using animals is one example, right? So it's just natural evolution, I would say. But of course, the first breaking, like coming out first and like educating people to understand that it's real meat and that it's safe to eat. It's going to be, of course, a challenge for all of us.
Yep, but one I think that's certainly overcomable. And we believe that what you're doing and others like you is really important and very valuable, because it's not kind of like pork. It's pork. It's not kind of like beef. It's beef. And all of the vegetable alternatives, as good as they are, and they're very good, aren't exactly the same thing. So we think there's a place for exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to not only have unstructured products, but we also need to show the stakes and those products as well, and that minimize the number of additives or fillers. Like what our goal is to have just muscle cells, fat cells, and the scaffold or the connective tissue and make the cells grow on this, like as the same happens when a mother is bearing a child, like growing a child inside, right? Like if that is, a woman can do it, like we can replicate that process as well.
And, the skeptics, and there are skeptics about this, essentially say price, that lab grown meat is so expensive and doing it is so difficult that the price will never get even close to the current market price. And therefore it's inherently elitist and billionaires will have it, but normal folks will never be able to afford it. And that it'll never be possible to grow enough of it to really make a difference. What's your response to that?
Well, first, I would say there are other technologies that were very expensive in the beginning, like, for instance, the genome sequence of a human. And nowadays everybody's doing 23andMe and getting the sequence analyzed. So that's gonna cultivated meat is kind of going to follow the same process or even like faster. And what I can say is that the main cost driver is the soup we feed the cell, like the culture media. And there are ways to kind of reduce the price of the media. And with our technology in particular, we are able to kind of like not need to buy particular growth factors, which is, the ingredients are very, very expensive. We are not going to need 3 of them. So our costs already, are reduced dramatically. And other things that you can do to, when you scale, for instance, the cost of glucose or amino acids, etc., then you buy in bulk and, so by scaling, we're going to reduce the cost. Definitely. So, when you do count everything and all that, we see that we are able to get to price parity already, at least on the theoretical model, economical.
Got it. And it may be good to give folks a little background here who don't talk about this every day. So obviously to grow, cells need food of some kind, and that's what you're talking about. You have to feed them something, what they would in nature get from their mother or from the slop bucket or whatever. And one of the keys here in early experimentation is to find cell lines that are very efficient, that take what you're giving them and produce a lot of growth, produce a lot of the right kinds of output, and eventually get to the point where you don't need this kind of outside support or very little of it to get progress and the kinds of outcomes you're looking for. Fair statement, not fair statement? What did I get right? What did I get wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. One of the ways of reducing the cost of production is by selecting cell lines that are extremely fast and grow very fast and have particular properties. The other way, as I said, it was through the culture media or through scaffolding. So we are more like leaning towards those approaches, but there are other companies that are like working on selecting the cell lines.
Got it. So what's your biggest worry right now, and what's your biggest hope right now?
All right. My biggest worry would be, well, for us, we're not engineers, so the process of scaling is the most unknown at the moment. But we're hoping to hire a team where we can tackle those challenges. But yeah, scaling is one of the things that it's the most unknown for us. So making bioreactors efficient enough to produce enough meat for everyone, because the things like to really fulfill the demand, the future demand, we really need to build large commercialization plans. So that's my biggest fear, but I guess that's something that is solvable by just raising money and working on it. And my biggest hope is to have jamon or like Iberico in the US, so that everybody can enjoy it. And it's just like I can't wait to see that. And just the same way as I eat Impossible Burger, and it's like, oh my God, it tastes just like real burger. Is that feeling, that knowing that people are enjoying that. Because
now you're a scientist by background. Why didn't you stay a scientist? Why did you decide to take this kind of risk as opposed to sort of stay in the leafy grove of academia or whatever?
Well, it was kind of like certain, like done by like a decision done by not accident. I would not say accident, but I'm driven by challenges. So I was kind of motivated to take this challenge, and I took it without really thinking, oh, I want to do a startup. I was more like, I want to solve this problem. So, and the problem was making vegan collagen, and thinking of an application for it is when I realized cultivated meat industry needed scaffolds that are scalable and affordable. So in that moment, I was not thinking I'm starting a company. I was more like, oh, I want to solve this problem. And that's how I got hooked. And then people started saying I should be the CEO, which I took it like as oh, really? Like I've been always a lab rat. And I kind of felt, yeah, okay, let's change a little bit the process. And also I wanted to learn new things. So it's really fun to be kind of leading like the science, talking to my co-founder about the scientific problems, and then translating that into, in a more like simpler way to kind of like get funding and like learn about finance and accounting and everything. So it's like everything new. So it's super fun.
Got it. And so there are two of you now, but obviously as you succeed, there will be more than two of you. And so how are you preparing yourself for that, for new people, for recruiting, for building a company structure, for dealing with grocery stores or whatever, as this goes from being a lab project to being an actual company?
Well, we're pretty much ready. We already set up our headquarters, the office, the lab. Everything is ready to welcome people in, and yeah, all the other challenge of management and all that is something that I've been like at school, like while doing my postdoc, taking classes at the Haas and like Berkeley Law, and like all the management and all the intricacies of business. So at least, I got the fundamentals, and I'm really excited about having people and doing things as a team and as a larger team.
So a year from now, if we get back together and do this again, what do you think the company will be like, and how do you think you'll be different?
Well, next year we will have a bioreactor prototype that is going to be use very little volume, not many growth factors, going to be very affordable. And I'm excited to kind of like start using that and making much more material and have tastings, with chefs and everyone, and start, making partnerships. And how will I change? I'm not sure. I guess I really want to start having, a team and more people and be a BCB with, I'm a social butterfly, I guess.
Got it. Well, so let's do that. Let's get together a year from now and see how it all is coming out. We've been really impressed, I think, with how much you've accomplished so far. And I love real Iberico ham. For anybody who hasn't had it, Iberico ham is to ham what? I don't know. Ambrosia is the regular food. I mean, it's like on a different planet from
Mhm.
regular ham. So you're going for the highest of the high. So it's really going to be fun
Yeah,
to
that
see how
would
you
be
get there.
so first we do the fresh cut, and then we have partners in Spain who, they have like one of the largest ham production facilities. Like we were there were like 1.8 million hams. They know the process very well. So we're excited to give them like a piece of our cultivated meat and like put it there and like check it a year later and see how it tastes. And that's going to be super exciting.
Right.
Because,
Because this is cured. It takes a while to make. It's not just
yes,
grow
yes.
it, knead it.
And I feel like in the US, like it's something that the same way the Japanese brought sushi. And at first everybody was like, oh, raw fish, now everybody's eating sushi. So that's what I want to do with jamon, have it like everywhere, like little bocadillos, little sandwiches, snacks, and it's just like a treat.
Sounds good to me. Look forward to it. We could go on for a long time, but I think we've probably taken up all of our time for today. So thank you. And let's get back together a year from now or whenever you're ready to have folks start tasting this. And then we can talk about that experience and growth in both the food and the company.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, let me just blabber about Novel Farms. And thank you so much for being one of the very first supporters of Novel Farms.
Happy to do so. We have a lot of faith in you and a lot of interest in what you're doing. Can't wait to see how it all comes.